John Wick crashes a SUV into a wall. He lurches out of the vehicle, horrendous and injured. He comes down on an injury in his stomach. As he slithers aside, he takes out his telephone and watches a video of his better half Helen near the ocean. John slouches over and closes his eyes. A few days sooner, John awakens on an overcast day. He has flashbacks of him being with Helen, as of not long ago when she fell in his arms. She had a disease that in the long run guaranteed her life. It is the day of her memorial service. After the help, John's close buddy Marcus approaches him to give his sympathies. That evening, a conveyance shows up for John. It's a little beagle. John tracks down a note from Helen. She kept in touch with him that she enjoys made harmony with her demise, and presently she believes John should see as his. John sobs. He takes the canine out and takes a gander at its restraint, which has a bloom on it, driving John to sort out Helen named the canine Daisy. Daisy follows John on his day as he takes his Bronco out. He stops to get gas simultaneously as 3 Russian mobsters, including ISF Tarasov, child of Horde supervisor Vigo Tarasov. ISF comes up to John's vehicle and praises it, and afterward asks the amount he needs for it. John says it's not available to be purchased. ISF then, at that point, affronts John in Russian, accepting John will not comprehend. Nonetheless, John refutes him, communicating in Russian in a low tone. One of ISF's mates looks his head into the vehicle and wishes John a decent day. As John is getting into bed, Daisy needs to utilize the restroom. At the point when they get down the stairs, there are 2 men in shadows remaining before John, while a third takes a bat and whacks John in the head. He begins beating on John while Daisy whimpers. One of the men heads toward the canine and breaks her neck. The man pulls off his veil to uncover ISF, who takes John out. John later awakens and heads toward his dead little dog, stroking her head. ISF takes John's vehicle to a shop run by Aurelio. Aurelio promptly perceives the vehicle and requests to know where ISF got it. ISF boasts about who he took the vehicle from and that he killed this individual's canine. Aurelio slugs ISF in the face. ISF stomps out, saying he'll take the vehicle to another person. Afterward, John drops by the shop and inquires as to whether ISF stopped by, and Aurelio gives John his name to affirm that is who took his vehicle and killed his canine. Considerably sometime thereafter, Vigo calls Aurelio to inquire as to why he struck ISF. Aurelio says since he took John Wick's vehicle and killed his canine. Vigo essentially answers, "Goodness," and hangs up. In the meantime, John brings a demo hammer into the storm cellar and starts crushing the floor open. He uncovers a reserve of weapons and gold coins. Vigo meets with ISF in his home to talk about the circumstance. He hits his child 2 times in the sun-oriented plexus to condemn him, letting him know who he just perpetrated a wrongdoing against. Vigo tells ISF that John Wick was related with him once until he met Helen and chose to leave. John evidently had a standing as the boogeyman, or rather, the person they called to kill the boogeyman. Vigo hits John up to attempt to determine the matter, however John hangs up on him. Vigo sends a group of 12 hired gunmen to John's home that evening to kill him. John dispatches every one of them no sweat, battling with the last barely any prior to cutting the last person through the heart. A cop thumps on the front entryway. He inquires as to whether John is back in the business, alluding to the body noticeable behind John. John says he's simply figuring a few things out. The cop hopes everything works out for him and leaves. John calls a tidy-up team that he has worked with in the past to tidy up the scene and discard the bodies. They appear to realize it won't be the last time they help him. Vigo meets with Wick's companion Marcus and requests that he kill Wick, offering an agreement worth $2 million. He additionally educates his aide Avi to call for others to take the work. Marcus promptly acknowledges. John shows up at the mainland lodging in Lower Manhattan where he remains while he leads business. He perceives Perkins. John meets another close buddy, Winston, the chief and proprietor of the mainland. John asks and Winston lets him know that ISF is at a club called Red Circle. John goes into the club where ISF and his amigos are celebrating. John initially kills one of ISF's thugs and advances through the club's lower level where ISF is partaking in an evening of champagne and ladies in an extravagant Russian bathhouse. When they spot John, he starts taking shots at them while ISF takes off. John kills each contract killer in his way, however he loses ISF as he escapes in a fast vehicle. He gets back to the mainland to have an injury in his side sewed up. One of Vigo's men had cut John with a container in the club. The specialist lets John know that his fastens will tear assuming he strives. John says he has the pain reliever, a piece of his recuperation covered with the whiskey he'd requested before. Around evening time, Marcus gets to the top of the structure across the road and focuses on John in his bed. From the mirror, he sees somebody entering. He shoots a shot to caution John. It's Perkins. She begins taking shots at John while he evades her. She lets him know that Vigo has multiplied the agreement to $4 million assuming she disrupts the norms of the lodging and kills him. He battles Perkins with trouble until he gets her in a wrestler's hold and offers her kindness for data. She lets John know that Vigo keeps the greater part of his resources in the storm cellar of a congregation. John takes Perkins out and leaves her with Harry, a business colleague, for one of the gold coins of their association. Harry keeps Perkins bound to a seat, ignorant that she has separated her thumb to get out. She gets out and puts a cushion over Harry's face prior to shooting him. John goes to the congregation where Vigo maintains his mystery reserve of cash and business documents. In the wake of shooting different gatekeepers in the congregation, John powers the cleric to direct him to where the vault is. He excuses the ladies in the vault and lights everything ablaze. Vigo learns of the discharge minutes before he is trapped in a hail of gunfire civility of John. In spite of the fact that he kills the greater part of Vigo's men, he is taken out when a SUV rams into another, thumping John to the ground. Vigo catches him and asks why he's taken such extraordinary measures for vengeance over a vehicle and a canine. John lets him know that the canine was a gift from his withering spouse and that ISF took that from him. He likewise lets Vigo know that he can either give ISF to him or pass on close to him. Vigo passes on him with his colleagues for them to choke out him with a plastic pack. Be that as it may, Marcus is watching from the following structure, and he shoots one contract killer in the head to allow John to take out the other. John gets his firearm and takes shots at Vigo's fast vehicle, leaving just him alive. Vigo is compelled to let John know that ISF is concealing in a protected house in Brooklyn. The protected house is monitored by outfitted men, however no part of that prevents John from killing them and raging the spot. ISF by attempts to make a run for it, however John gets him and polishes him off. In reprisal for ISF's passing and for neglecting to kill John, Vigo has his thugs track down Marcus at his home. There, they beat him until Vigo and Perkins shoot him to death. Vigo calls John to let him know this, not long prior to avoiding for a helicopter to get with regard to the city. While trusting that John will come to Marcus' home, Perkins is assembled to a conference with Winston, the proprietor of the Mainland Inn. She meets Winston and 4 men at the Bethesda Arcade in Focal Park. Winston tells her she's disrupted the norms of the mainland and her participation has been ended. The 4 men execute her. As Winston leaves, he meets a similar cleaner who assisted John with eliminating the professional killer's bodies from his home, giving him a few coins. John tracks down Marcus' body and embarks to bring down Vigo. He finds the bad guys going to the chopper and takes a stab at slamming into them with his vehicle. Vigo makes Avi go out and kill John, just for John to smash into him with his vehicle. Vigo attempts to drive John's vehicle past the brink, yet John gets out securely. The two then, at that point, battle hand to submit the downpour. Vigo attempts to wound John, however John drives the edge into himself prior to snatching the blade and staying it into Vigo's neck. He passes on him to bite the dust. We return to the primary scene where John is as yet dying. Subsequent to watching the video with Helen, he is roused to continue to go. He goes into a canine sanctuary and keeps an eye on his cut injury. He then, at that point, takes a pit bull doggy with him, and they return home together.